Hey everybody, TM Punk here, ready to dissect the weird, wacky, wonderful, and often worrying world of professional wrestling. It's time for the Wrestle Rant. The satisfying climax of a long and exciting storyline is what keeps us wrestling fans coming back for more. Sometimes these thrilling conclusions come about due to the talent and hard work of the wrestlers involved. Other times they occur simply because bloody-minded fans demanded a particular direction. And other times, the end result is so utterly eye-gougingly terrible that we collectively hold our heads in our hands and announce the day we ever discovered sports entertainment. But even worse than that, sometimes we're not treated to any kind of conclusion, and an angle disappears without any explanation, quicker than a Zack Ryder push. So with that in mind, today I'm counting down my top 5 wrestling unsolved mysteries. Getting us underway at number 5, it's GTV. During the Attitude Era, the WWF produced many infamous backstage segments, most notably a supposed male porn star having his genitals removed with a samurai sword, and of course an octogenarian woman giving birth to a rubber hand following an interracial rendezvous with a man half her age. Amidst all this chaos, GTV became a regular feature on Monday Night Raw, a series of shaky, Gorilla Cam style segments exposing the secrets and lies of wrestlers caught unaware. Taking into account the voyeuristic elements of his character, his obsession with all things filmic, and the titular G of GTV, most assumed that Goldust was the man behind the camera, but the true culprit was never revealed, and the segments began to fizzle out before being dropped completely. Dustin Runnels, the man behind the golden face paint, would then defect to WCW in 1999, so even if it had have been him all along, the entire thing was rendered pointless. Next up at number 4, it's the kidnap of Samoa Joe. Ah, the masked man, wrestling's ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card. Since the dawn of time, if ever an angle or wrestler has needed rebooting or repackaging, the involvement of a mysterious masked man, or even a gang of them, has been seen as the easiest and most effective way to accomplish it. Back in 2008, Samoa Joe was involved in a white-hot programme with then TNA champion Kurt Angle, and would go on to dethrone the Olympic hero at that year's lockdown. However, unlike the feud that had preceded it, Joe's run with the belt was pretty underwhelming, and after dropping the strap to Sting 6 months later, he would drop down the card after his new Nation of Violence gimmick failed to take off. In an effort to rehabilitate their former star, TNA decided to take Joe off TV, and did so by having him kayfabe abducted by a group of masked aggressors. The intention was for Joe to return to TNA some months later with a new lunatic persona as a result of his incarceration, but with a distinct lack of top babyfaces at their disposal, TNA would bring him back to the fold just 4 weeks later, and instead of hastily piecing together an explanation for his absence, they simply pretended as though it had never happened, in the hope that everyone would forget about it. If only TNA could apply this logic to the rest of their product, they wouldn't have any problems at all. In the number 3 spot, who moved the briefcase? The Austin McMahon feud of the late 90s is probably regarded as the most successful angle of all time, but there is still one big unanswered question. By the time King of the Ring 99 came along, Austin and McMahon had waged war for the best part of 18 months, and along with Shane McMahon, collided in a ladder match, with control of the WWF at stake. At one point in the match, Austin ascended the ladder and a victory seemingly within his grasp, only for an unknown interloper to raise the briefcase high into the rafters and out of Austin's reach. The person responsible would have presumably gone on to form a high-profile alliance with the McMahons, and a ready-made feud against Austin himself. And although the father-son duo of Vince and Shane were declared the victors, the identity of the briefcase saboteur was never explicitly revealed, leaving fans scratching their heads and a potential push completely squandered. Coming in at number 2, whatever happened to Hayde Vanson? Life as a developmental talent must be hard. You spend weeks, months and years honing your craft, preparing for your debut and dreaming of big matches against top talent. But when your moment finally arrives, you're saddled with a forgettable and excruciating mid-card gimmick before fading into the background. Or, as it's sometimes known, TNA. However, back in 2008, young prospect Hayde Vanson looked like bucking that trend. Plucked from relative obscurity, Vanson was hand-picked for a high-profile feud with The Undertaker, culminating in a match at WrestleMania, a surefire springboard to a very bright future. The grooming process began on the December 13th episode of SmackDown, when Vanson appeared in a shadowy, sinister and foreboding vignette, supposedly the first of many to sow the seed for his programme with the Phenom. Unfortunately, barely 1 week later, Vanson was released from his WWE contract, with little fanfare and zero explanation, and a career-defining feud disappeared in a blink and you'll miss it moment. And finally, in our number one position, the death and resurrection of Mr. McMahon. The year is 2007, and Mr. McMahon, Vince McMahon's not-so-alter ego, has been a staple of WWE programming for almost 10 years. But in a shocking twist on the June 25th edition of Raw, McMahon stepped inside his limousine, only for the vehicle to explode in a remarkably convincing ball of flame. And in the hours that followed, both WWE and even some mainstream media outlets would announce that McMahon was presumed dead. In reality, Vince was still alive and well. Okay, just alive. But killing off his on-screen persona was intended to create a storyline power struggle in his absence. And although I'm obviously not advocating the use of actual homicide as a means of getting over, an enormous push presumably awaited for whoever was found responsible for his kayfabe murder. Sadly, just a few days later, the very real murders of both Nancy and Daniel Benoit at the hands of WWE wrestler Chris forced Vince out of hiding to defend his company from the intense media scrutiny it found itself under. The exploding limo angle was quickly dropped and never mentioned on WWE TV again, and Vince continues to be an active part of the show to this very day. So that's all the time we have on this edition of the Wrestle Wrant. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. And if you didn't, please feel free to tell me in the comments section below. It won't make any difference, but might make you feel a bit better about yourself. My name's TM Punk, you've been watching the Wrestle Wrant, and I'll see you for another real soon.